Welcome to Defy Logic, where we hear about and talk about people who dare to overcome life's most challenging obstacles. I'm Bryant Lee, and I'll be your guide on this journey. So hang tight while we inspire you, challenge you, and dare you to defy logic.
My story begins not in triumph, but in grief. I was living as a cupbearer to King Artaxerxes of Persia when I received devastating news. Jerusalem, my homeland, lay in ruins. Its walls were broken, its gates burned, and its people lived in disgrace. Though I was far from the land of my ancestors, my heart was deeply burdened. I wept, fasted, and prayed, crying out to God for guidance. In my prayer, I acknowledged God's greatness and confessed the sins of my people. But I didn't stop at lamentation. I sought God's favor and asked for boldness to act. God responded to my faith. When the opportunity came to speak with the king, I asked for permission to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the walls. This was no small request, yet through God's providence, the king not only granted permission, but also provided letters of safe passage and the resources needed for the task. With faith as my foundation, I set out on the mission that would define my life. When I arrived in Jerusalem, the sight of the broken walls confirmed the reports I had heard. But instead of despairing, I set out to work. At night, I inspected the ruins, walking through the rubble and envisioning what could be. Then I rallied the people with a powerful call to action. Come, let us rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and we no longer will be in disgrace. My words inspired hope and unity, and the people began to rebuild. But the task was far from easy. As the walls started to rise, so did the opposition. Local enemies, Sanballat, Tobiah, and others, mocked and ridiculed the effort. They asked, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Can they restore the wall from this rubble?" When ridicule failed, they escalated to threats and sabotage. Yet I stood firm. I prayed for God's strength and encouraged the people. Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons, and your daughters. My leadership was practical and spiritual. As the threats increased, I stationed guards to protect the workers. Half the men labored, while the others stood watch with swords, spears, and shields. Even the workers carried weapons, ready to defend the work at a moment's notice. With one hand, they built the wall. With the other, they held their weapons. I reminded them again and again, our God will fight for us. Despite the constant danger and grueling labor, the walls were completed in just 52 days, a feat so incredible that even their enemies were astonished. It was clear to all that this was not just human effort. It was the hand of God at work. But the mission didn't end with the rebuilding of the wall. Once the physical restoration was complete, I turned my focus to the spiritual restoration of the people. I gathered them together to hear the word of God. As the scriptures were read aloud, the people wept, realizing how far they had drifted from God's ways. But I encouraged them, do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. This story proves what God can do through one person who is willing to answer his call. It teaches us to trust God in the face of challenges, to pray persistently, and to work diligently. It shows us that when God calls us to rebuild, whether it's our own lives, our families, or our communities, He will equip us with the strength and resources we need. My life challenges us to take bold steps of faith, to stand guard against opposition, and to press on, knowing that God fights for us. Whatever ruins we face, we can trust. With God, they are not the end of the story. They are the foundation for restoration and renewal. My name's Nehemiah. What's your Goliath? Change your thinking. Change yourself. Change your world. Defy logic.
Have a story about overcoming a Goliath by changing your thinking, yourself, and your world? We want to hear from you. Let your story motivate others to face their Goliaths and defy logic.